Good morning, comrades. You are listening to WHIV-LP New Orleans 102.3. This is your weekly Good Morning Comrade. This is an exciting time to be a democratic socialist and to be a member of DSA. We have recently had electoral victories in the state of New York City, or the state of New York, the city of New York, and also in the city of Denver in Colorado. We also have some folks that are up for election in as governor in the state of Minnesota, as well as Oliver Larkin down in Florida, and many others across the nation. And I just wanted to bring on a couple of folks, Michaela B. and Francis G., to join us on the show to talk about that and to talk about the program of the Democratic Socialists of America, which dropped a few weeks back, and just sort of what the organization is about, what we're fighting for, and what the direction is. So first, I want to introduce our first guest. She is a returning champion. She's been on the show at least twice. I remember the first time you were on, Francis, we talked about No On 2, which was the Save Our Public Libraries program, which we won in New Orleans. And now we're going to win some more. Francis Gill, welcome back to Good Morning Comrade.
Thank you, Jeff. Excited to be back. Yeah, it's great to be back on Good Morning Comrade. I do remember going on and talking about the public libraries campaign, which was such a fantastic victory. When we fight, we win.
When we fight, we win. And I think I still have my sign somewhere. Even when I moved, I like that somehow made the move with me. So we also have a first-time guest. She is the host of the political education podcast for the Democratic Socialists of America, and she's going to tell us a lot more about herself right now. Michaela B., welcome to Good Morning Comrade.
Hey, all. Thanks for having me. My name is Michaela Brangen. I am in North New Jersey DSA. I live in Union City, New Jersey, which is just in the New York metro area. I am chair of DSA's National Political Education Committee, and I also was co-chair with Francis on the Workers Deserve More program committee.
Yes.
Which, as you mentioned, we just dropped our program July 14th, Bastille Day this year, and it's causing quite a stir.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you're from Union City. That always makes me reminds me of the Blondie song, Union
That's
City
right.
Blue.
And it was a movie too. I don't know if you know
I didn't know that. No, what's the movie?
A very bad movie in the sense of poor quality or poor acting or something. I actually haven't seen it myself, but still in the movie, she was a go-go dancer here. Fun fact.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, wow. But Debbie Harry was?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh,
dude.
I gotta watch that.
Yeah, let me tell you something. We're gonna start off topic, but like I have been on the craziest Blondie kick lately. I just forgot how awesome of a band they were.
It's an incredible band, and that song is actually a total banger too.
Anthem. It's like
a
anthemic.
Ballad kind of. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, welcome to Good Morning Comrade, and I guess to start us off, tell us about the Workers Deserve More program and what that is about. I know that's a big question. We can drill down on some of the specific planks on it, but I guess if you want to start us off, Michaela, just describe the platform the program, what it is, what the ideas are behind it, and why does an organization like DSA even need that?
Those are all really great questions, and thankfully I have much practice at answering them, as does Francis. So Workers Deserve More was actually a pamphlet that was produced in 2024 in sort of in anticipation of the midterms, and it wasn't a program per se. We already had a platform that had been adopted in 2021 that was our official platform. But Workers Deserve More that year ended up kind of organically getting all of this organization and enthusiasm around it, because it was a very short kind of like minimal program that then chapters used to organize internally, to table, to even in people's workplaces they were using it. Even some electeds, not on the national level or federal level, but locally were using it as ways to kind of center their campaign. So this was already happening. And then in 2025, last year, we had our national convention. We have it every 2 years. And I, as well as a couple other people, introduced a resolution to build on the Workers Deserve More program. It was called the resolution was called Workers Deserve More Forever, which has, a couple
I
of
love
meanings
that.
there. But what we did was we said, we're going to revise this to update it for our current political moment, to update it for the demands that people are winning here at convention, and to kind of make it our official program, to replace this longer kind of unwieldy document that had been produced before, and really make Workers Deserve More the center of our organization. And it won. There were a couple of different resolutions that were introducing programmatic kinds of things, and this was the one that won out. So in March, we formed our committee, or the committee got together for the first time at the end of March, and then April, May, and June we wrote it. And it was me, Francis, number of other comrades from national leadership and committees, as well as rank and file comrades from all over the country. And that's how it was produced. I want to make sure, Francis, you get a chance to say something, but I do have to say, I have really loved the process, and it's almost hard to let go, even though we've been working so hard on it and it's kind of coming to its end. It's like, wow, this has been such a cool thing to make, especially because it really has hit the mainstream in a way that has been I think very exciting, even though there have been some challenges, right? Like bringing people up to speed on it.
Yeah, and we can talk about that in just a second, but it is certainly something to be proud of. Francis?
Yeah, no, totally. I think it really can't be overstated. Like the process of drafting the program was really in itself very, very powerful, because there's just not a lot, especially in the national organization. People can be really just set in their ways and this is my political line and I'm gonna try to advance it in whatever way I can. Which makes sense. We're a political organization. But it was really powerful to be a part of a process where we were okay, let's just sentence by sentence go through and not have yes or no, up, down debates or votes on stuff, but actually hash out what is the idea we're trying to get across? Where is there real alignment and real synthesis? Because we are a big tent organization, and we, in a lot of ways, come from distinct political traditions within the left and are trying to figure out how to merge and synthesize those things. But at the end of the day, there's also so many things that we actually do just agree on. And so figuring out how we articulate that in a way that really everybody from different parts of the organization could get behind. And when I say parts of the organization, not just different caucuses or different factions, but also different areas of work. So trying to have representatives from the Growth and Development Committee, the International Committee, and different buckets of work within the org. So we're synthesizing. I have to figure out a new word for synthesis. I'm saying it so often. We're really synthesizing these different threads of the practical daily work and the sort of political ideas that people come into the work with. And I think that's part of what made it ultimately something that people could really get behind and get excited about. And so I don't know, that's just cool. It's not it's not often that that's how we do things in DSA, and it's not often that that's how we do things in national DSA. And I think it just really reminded me that the big tent thing is powerful in a multitude of ways. And one of the ways that it's powerful is the possibility of synthesizing different ideas into a more coherent and energizing and unified whole. And I just think that's incredibly cool.
That's dialectics, baby.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
and an organization that's so sort of broad and so diverse as DSA, with people from different perspectives, and as you just mentioned, different lenses through which the organization can be viewed, be it from the internationalism or labor or whatever it is. It's nice to see when there's so much diversity in an organization to have something that is almost like our uniting principles in our uniting document. So kudos to you on doing that Herculean task. That's a big mountain wall to be taken down. So shout out to everybody who worked on that.
Absolutely.
Let's get into it. Let's dig in. So there's three major sort of branches to look at in this. They are go ahead, tell us what the three branches are and tell us a little bit about each one.
Yeah, so I just want to start off the overall structure. We do have three sections of the demands, or the section what we fight for, but the overall structure of the program itself is kind of breaks a little bit with tradition. Socialist programs and all party programs really have a preamble, and then they have their demands. or like a minimal program will often have a really short like introduction section and then just the demands. We decided to start with a narrative that is non-traditional in like sort of party programming. And part of that was just a desire on my part, and I think I was able to convince other people to break with tradition to the extent that we're all faced with a barrage of terrible news about how horrible things are. And so what would it be like if somebody could actually imagine what a simple vision of freedom looks like freedom from capitalism, like not like suddenly there's flying cars or everybody gets a unicorn kind of like fantasy, but really actually like an alternative future. Because people
a practical vision of a practical vision of a better world.
Exactly.
I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because we'll talk a little more about this, but the right has been latching on to like certain sections of it and really freaking out in like really absurd ways. It's kind of hilarious. So we have this section, which I'm really proud of in part because, you know, I wanted it in there, but also because eventually people in this synthetic way that Francis was talking about realized how it really fits with everything else. Because in our modern moment in socialism, we're sort of disorganized in a lot of ways. We don't have like an official party in a way that really like unifies us. So what would it be like to actually be able to look forward and say like, this is something that all people within DSA could actually, at least on a minimum level, understand. And also how working class people, if they read this, they could be like, hey, that's me. I do those things. What would it be like to do all those things? Walk your kids to school, you know, go to the doctor, read something you want to read, go to the movies, whatever, like hang out with your family without worrying about like dreading going back to work, having like the Sunday scaries or whatever, because you actually enjoy what you do. You know that it contributes to the broader good. And also you're not just working a job so that you can survive. You're part of a thriving society. Then the second part is kind of more traditional, and it's you know, our perspective on the current political moment and the causes of things, which the cause is capitalism. Living under capitalism is what has provided. Oh, my cat's yelling in the background.
It's okay. It's the sounds. It's the sounds of the house. You'll never beat the cat allegations.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah, but yeah, like,
and nor should you. By the way, cats are awesome.
Absolutely not. In fact, I have two.
I
make up for the fact that Francis only has a dog. So
I have 5 cats.
Do you really?
Oh, you're the cat lady to beat them all. So yeah,
anyway,
this second section is a short, like, here's the problem and here's what we want to do to solve it, which is replace capitalism with socialism. And here's what we're doing about it, right? Join DSA, very clear. And then the what we fight for section, and I want to, you know, maybe give Francis a chance to speak, is the traditional demands. And they're broken up into 3 sections: thriving working class communities, working class foreign policy, and working class democracy. And the previous Workers Deserve More pamphlet had 4 sections, and we broke it down into 3 and made the working class community section a lot longer because we kind of worked in other things that had been maybe kind of stuck in another section. Something I'm really proud of is the fact that we have made labor demands like kind of woven throughout the entire thing. It's not just sectioned off into one section because, you know, labor is the hope of the world. Like, if we want to actually like break the chains of exploitation, what we have to do is really empower working class. And the way we do that is by forefronting labor. But Francis, I want you to
really quick before I do it, Francis, really quick on that point. The only institutions truly that belong to the working class are the labor unions. And 2, we need to pause for station ID. You're listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. This is Good Morning Comrade. Francis, talk about it.
Yeah, you know, so like Michaela said, we have these kind of 3 sections: the narrative, and then sort of like the state of this, like what is the current situation, and then what we're really fighting for. And I really want to emphasize with the narrative piece, on our drafting committee, like initially there was uncertainty about whether to include that part, and some people like pushed back, didn't want to have the narrative piece. And I, you know, totally understandable because it is a break from tradition and also like how we did the last program. And I think as socialists, often we can be guilty of like really intellectualizing or getting a little bit up in the clouds with our ideas.
You ain't kidding.
Yeah. I mean, everybody, we're all guilty of it at times, but the strongest communication of our message is through story and through people's personal stories or through their personal experiences, and being able to see a narrative, a story that someone can envision themselves as part of, I think is so powerful. And so yeah, I really want to just give flowers to Michaela for kind of pushing for the narrative section, because that was her baby and she really like did push it through. And when we debuted the platform we did the launch, and then we had the Socialist Summit a couple weeks ago and got to hear like direct feedback from members. A lot of members did comment specifically on the narrative piece and how powerful that was in their own experience of the program. So I think that really is pretty telling. And I think as socialists and as DSA, we can definitely get into this world that can be a little bit like, or a mindset that's like a little too heady or too up in the clouds. And it's helpful to like ground ourselves in just actual experience. Like, and I think the thing about the program is, well, one of the most powerful ways that it can be a tool for organizing for socialism is being able to put it in someone's hands and have themselves say like, I see myself in this. I see myself in these politics. I see myself in these demands, and having the story aspect there too, I think makes that bridge a little bit more just walkable. So I think that's a really cool part of the current program. And then we have our kind of like, and here's the problems of the world. And I think it's also something that's important is like we foregrounded the positive piece, like here's our positive, inspiring, not like in a toxic positivity way, positivity way, but just in like imagine a better world. And I think as the left and as leftists, we can definitely sometimes be guilty of being
doomer,
because things are really bad.
Well, let me tell you something. Like if you don't have, and I believe this deeply, like if you don't have a hope for a positive vision of why you're fighting, then what are you even doing? Then if you don't have a hope if there's no light at the end of the tunnel, if there's no possibility for things to get better in the world, why not just roll over and take it forever? Like for real. Like I'm not trying to sound like I don't know what I'm trying to sound like here, but like that is extremely motivating, and it's something that can connect with normal people, because it's so easy to sort of like fall into the sort of like Mark Fisher capitalist realism. There'll never be any alternative to any of this. This is a refutation of that sort of like mindset, which and it also, in my opinion, like the second piece of like the state of the situation, correctly and accurately applies the reasoning for the way things, like the way it lays out the way things are, and it applies the sort of like blame, I guess you could say, for the way that things are appropriately on the system of capitalism, and which is awesome. That's exactly what you're supposed to do when you're structuring something like this. So like, I know you don't need validation from me on this, but like, that's just like, that's just Jeff just kind of popping off for a second.
No, it actually is very, I mean, thank you too, for understanding it. But whenever you make something, whenever you write something, especially when you're writing something as a group, which can be like a nightmare,
excruciating.
But it was not. Yeah, it was not a nightmare, and for all the reasons that have already been said, it was wonderful. It is wonderful, actually, like doing the rollout and everything. But seeing like people understanding kind of like the logic of it, that shows that it's successful, even if you have the right and centrist Democrats getting red-faced and outraged, whether it's fake outrage or real outrage.
We'll get to that.
About various little parts of it that they're just like, oh, I can't believe they would actually say this stuff out loud. It's like, yeah, we are. And it's incredibly compelling. We can see the back end of the, Google search, thousands of people going to the program the website. So people are not just taking everyone's word for it. Obviously, there's been, some, I wouldn't even say bumps in the road. I would say that these are expected kinds of, not just criticisms, but expected kinds of attempts to sabotage when socialists are saying, we've always believed these things. And now we actually have a very beautiful object that we can hand to people and say, here, this is what we believe, join us. And it's been great. Like last month, I think that we gained a 10% or something, like a huge
membership,
which and you already know that there's been all of these like membership bumps, but they've been kind of building and building ever since they're on, especially since they're on. But like, that's what happens in DSA. You get these bumps and plateaus and stuff, but it was huge. And it's like last month is when the program was released. So I'm not saying it's because of it. What I'm saying is that this kind of goes to your question of like, why now? Why have a program? This is part of us. Like, we never have hidden ourselves, but this is part of us being organized enough to be able to put something like this out and be like, I don't just have to defend this. What I'm doing is proudly promoting the fact that we believe in these things and that we have the juice to fight for them.
Yeah, I think it's so, and I didn't even really clock it until you mentioned it at the summit, Michaela, but it is so telling that we have grown by 10% in the last month since the program started getting all this airtime. And yeah, it's not like because of the program, but it's like the idea that this is so politically, just like political suicide to put these ideas out there is just clearly fake and false.
They have to say that.
They have to say, yeah. And the reality is that it's bringing people in.
Yeah.
And the haters are mad. We must be doing something right. Like if the people who are our moral enemies are like trying to criticize us and talk about like, actually, you need to be doing this to get your socialist organization. Like you can basically say, no, we're good. We're doing.
Yeah, to be
you're not a
attacked by
socialist.
The enemy is a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it really is funny because there is a certain amount. I don't know if you wanted to continue on the platform or just sort of like move on to the sort of like mainstream controversy surrounding it. But is there anything else you want to?
Back and forth, I think.
Yeah. So I guess talk about like all this like fracas or whatever you want to call it that a lot of these like mainstream establishment cable news for the most part freakazoids are saying about our platform. I mean, that's not fair to Freakazoid, which is one of my favorite cartoons from the 90s.
Francis, you want to start?
Yeah. I think it's so fascinating.
By the way, you killed it on Fox News. You did.
Oh, thank you. I mean, well, the Fox, like I was super nervous about it beforehand. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to ask a bunch of really hard questions. And then I was like, oh, wait, they're going to ask the same questions that the right has been asking and the same totally BS arguments that the right's been putting forward for the last, 20 years or whatever. Like the socialists are going to take away my toothbrush. Like it's just the same stuff they've been trotting out for decades. So and then I was like, okay, I guess we're going to have a little fun with this. And I'm just going to try to talk over them as much as I can. But yeah, the controversy is really fascinating. I think like the ideas are bold, and that's partly why people are moved by that, because we're saying, I guess not just because I think that people just really recognize like in their bones that if things are actually going to change, if their life is actually going to change on the day-to-day, you would have to do big, huge, large scale reforms. Like it wouldn't be just, a public option for healthcare. It would be Medicare for all. It wouldn't be just like some reforms to
tax breaks for solar panels.
Yeah, tax breaks for solar panels, right? It'd be a big deal. And then on the democratic, like the structure of our democracy, I think people recognize that too. Like it wouldn't be enough to just tinker around the edges. I mean, people have seen the Supreme Court, overturn Roe v. Wade, inject money back into politics with Citizens United, gut the Voting Rights Act. They've seen all that stuff happen in the last few years. So it's just like the idea that that's
You're good.
Okay. Yeah, the idea that stuff that changes would be needed is so radical that it's going to put people off is just does not bear fruit. Like people. What's happening to us and what's happening to our society is radical. Putting in on a website that we should end an extraordinarily undemocratic body, like that's not that radical.
You're talking about ICE, and you're talking about like things like that, right?
Yeah, like definitely a number of things in the program for sure, but immigration enforcement is a great example. Like we didn't have ICE 20 years ago. Like the idea that we are now stuck with it for the rest of time, and that if we don't send billions of dollars every year to fund ICE agents terrorizing our streets, that we're gonna have like I don't even know what. Like it's just totally insane. And so anyway, now
or the Senate, or the Senate. I know. I do think that like. And this might be critical of some of the folks that have been going on television to talk about these things. Like I do think standing by the program is important, but I also do think contextualizing what these issues are. And in certain cases, I've seen that folks have been very good at doing that. And in other cases, I've seen folks that are not as good at doing that. It's just something to be like expected, I suppose. But like that context actually is what makes this kind of a thing palatable and presentable to the human, to the average working class person, because the normal person, I guess, is not going to be like, we need to abolish the Senate tomorrow or whatever. They need to understand how undemocratic the Senate is, and then as a sort of like next step, you could come to that conclusion, as opposed to it being just a strong assertion. Michaela, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but
yeah, well, I mean, just to go back to what I was saying, is that when people actually read the program and can see how I think it hangs together, obviously there might be individual things that people disagree with, which is fine, because this is not, this is a snapshot of like our demands now and what we think is going to, both in the short term, but also in the long term, be not just the things that we fight for to make people's lives better or more tolerable, but also the things that will foment mass action within our the working class, and bring about like a democratic society. Like it's a pretty, like Francis was saying, it's a large scale kind of like shift, and it's a shift in people's imaginations, I think, and like what politics can do, right? Like what, like there is, we actually can change the Constitution. It is allowed. Right?
Yeah.
Like it says
it's
so
happened
right
many times. It's happened many times in United States history.
Many times, right? So like what would it actually take to be able to build up the class consciousness and like the kind of political agency within our class in order for us to bring about these large changes? Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight. But the idea that it's so offensive to like America to say something as radical as like abolish the Senate. When it's kind of like, okay, so what's a Senate? It literally means old men. Like it's so like, and no offense to our seasoned comrades listening, but let's be real here. Like the Senate is an anachronistic institution that was invented in order to limit the popular will. So a lot of this was also made at a time when people were like, oh, well, we want a democracy, but not too much. And the reason why was because they wanted to temper sort of Enlightenment thought, the idea that all humans have these inalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, with the very real fact that, guess what? If working class people, if workers, at the time they weren't called working class, but if the workers, if the laborers actually had political agency and were able to change things, it would mean that the ruling class was suddenly under a huge amount of threat, and that would mean private property was under a huge amount of threat, political power. So to me, like, this opens up a conversation, right? It might not be the thing that you go and when you're talking to your coworker, be like, oh yeah, did you see that it says abolish the Senate in here? But instead it's more like, okay, like, what do you think about these things? Let's talk about them. And I did want to highlight the fact that a lot of people right now are talking about the fact that we have abolishing the police and prison system, which protects the rich and jails the poor, within our demands. People are fixating on that, in part because there's this idea that the Black Lives Matter movement was this like failure, and we saw like all of these people like kind of rebel against this stuff. This is thinking, I think, very short-sightedly and about politics as like only based on trends, to the extent that we can say what we want is to abolish a police and prison system that protects the rich and jails the poor. Who doesn't want to see the end of that? We just saw what happened with Epstein, right?
Yeah.
And we also see that like mass incarceration warehouses poor people, and there are more crimes that are being put on the books that punish people for being poor. My own sibling actually went to jail for debt.
Wow.
Like not for very long, but that's like they're putting people in debtor's prison now,
Something
right? And
that
that's
is like
medieval.
that is a foundational like anti-American idea. Like
Absolutely.
part of the foundation of America was anti-debtors prisons.
Right. I mean, if you're not being deaded or put in prison for it, you're being fined. Obviously, these are the kinds of things that maybe your average person doesn't really think about. But getting into a conversation with someone's like, what are the things that socialists really want? What are we really fighting for? What we're fighting for is human emancipation. And that doesn't mean chaos. What it means is people being able to democratically participate in their lives, in their society, right? And we have to admit, like, the limitations that are placed on us as working class people in America have immiserated us. We don't have choice. Like just to bring it back to, one of Francis's and all of our favorite topics, Medicare for all, it is wildly popular. And it has
been for a decade, and it's been popular for a decade, and we don't have it.
And like now you actually hear like centrists and stuff saying like the only good idea in here is Medicare for all. And it's like the only reason you're saying that is because right now it's incredibly popular. And for you to say it's a bad idea would mean that you would then have to latch yourself to an unpopular idea. Well, to me, what we're kind of trying to do with this program is educate people as well. And like open up the possibilities for people to think, what would we actually have to do in order to achieve, a fair, just discipline system for truly antisocial behavior, not just petty crime, not just like, various kinds of like, infractions against the rich, right? That get punished while the rich run ragged over the rest of us. What would it be to actually be able to hold people socially accountable for things like rape and murder? Right now, the rape clearance rate is a third or something like that, which is an improvement, but it's still like absolutely dismal. And so whenever you hear people saying things like, well, what about the worst of the worst? It's like, sure, the worst of the worst, like they will be dispensed with, but that's not who ends up getting, the lion's share of discipline and surveillance and all of these things that are really turning us into a police state. One more thing on that too, and I just wanted to reiterate, abolish ICE wasn't popular a year ago, right? But now people can actually see what happens whenever you have a state-funded paramilitary running ragged over us, right? People want to be free. People want to be free and they want to be safe. And more, sort of militarized police is not how we're going to get there. What we're going to get with that is, I think, fascism. And so what we need to do as socialists is fight fascism with socialism, or as Fred Hampton said, we fight fire with water.
Yeah, not with fire, because that only makes more fire. You are listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. This is Good Morning Comrade. Francis, it looks like you're bursting to say something about that, so go right ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the conversations around like about police and policing and abolition, I think it's really, the right really wants to pin us on like these heinous hypotheticals that they trot out. And it's so strange to me that they think they can get away with that when there's all these just like actually real world, real life examples of really heinous and horrible things that are happening because of the police and policing system in our country. So that's like a really frustrating dynamic. And I think the other thing is like, there really is like bipartisan support for a lot of these ideas. So the idea that nobody thinks that what we're doing right now is working. Like everybody knows and agrees, whether you're like on the right or you're on the left, that we're spending way too much money on police and prisons and jails, and that it's not effective. And if you're a working class person, you probably know someone who's been affected by mass incarceration. And so you see it not only in just like, I don't want my tax dollars going to 50% of the city budget going to freaking the police department. But you see your loved ones who are in jail, or you see in LA, like with the police helicopters, they go over every single day. They're so loud. They're so annoying. They terrorize working class neighborhoods. And for what? Like to what end? Like, and it's such a racket too. I mean, obviously I'm preaching to the choir, but like, it's just such a racket because they, if crime is down, then it's like, oh, what we're doing is working. The police department gets more money. And if crime is up, it's like, oh, what we're doing isn't working. Like the police department needs more money. Like it's just
it's the only conclusion.
Yeah, it's crazy. And every city in the country deals with this dynamic. And obviously it happens at the national level too with, I mean, ICE and also the military budget, but every city in the country deals with it. And it obviously at the municipal level, you can't print more money. So people see the immediate consequences of huge portions of the budget going to police and prisons. And so there's very concrete, very straightforward arguments that can be made. But the right like really wants to pin us on these like just crazy hypotheticals. I did a LA local interview on Friday. One of the first questions the guy asked me as soon as the cameras started rolling, it was, so let's say that my daughter is someone breaks into her house and rapes her. You're saying that there would be no one that she could call to have justice, for them.
That's so crazy.
Literally,
that is so crazy.
Conversation. Yeah.
And to say that like there's no like community that you could ever go to at any point, like there's nobody that you could ever go reach out to and talk to, like every single person, it really gives away the idea that like every human being is an island, or that's their perspective, right? Like there is no community. There's only the old Thatcher acts. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well, and to Michaela's point, like in this system that we have right now today, your daughter's theoretical hypothetical assailant is probably going to go to jail. Like almost.
Yeah, the system that we currently have does not provide justice either.
Yeah. Yeah. So it really is such just. Yeah.
Don't say it.
I know. I'm just getting really
little pucky.
Just say it. Just say it.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I don't want to like ride on this one too, but I mean, a lot of this is also, as socialists, we do believe that capitalism must be replaced in order to create a truly democratic society. Class society has to end, and the reason that the police exist, the standing police, the police that we understand to be the police, they were invented to discipline and crush and make criminal workers movements. That's how they came about. Right. And then in the US, they were sort of remodeled to like fit to a slave economy. And what we have right now is also like, okay, so the idea that you couldn't call someone, the thing is the police don't respond to people who are working class people. They respond to wealthy people, right? They respond, and they are made to respond to a number of private property infractions, right? Like invading someone's home or territory. You actually have to have some of those things in order for you to be able to take advantage of this so-called public service. And the thing that really is kind of, the major contradiction is a lot of working class communities do feel that they're under policed, right? That they don't have enough police protection. Well, that's because it's being redirected to the wealthy, right? And also that while these police departments are getting all of this funding, it's coming out, it's being drained away from the social services that would actually create the conditions for people to not be as prone to do antisocial acts. So, we can kind of wrap it up now and talk about more parts, but I do really think that the reason they're focusing on these things is because if they were to try to address any of these other things, then they would be forced to admit that we're correct, right? With the police thing, it's a long-standing kind of. I mean, they were talking about this with like Michael Dukakis when he ran, saying that all of these these lefties, these liberals, they're gonna let. So it's the same thing, right? It's just that now we're
open
also
the prisons and they're going to run wild on society.
So we
like
kind
the
of
Batman movie, the Batman Dark Knight Rises, when he just like opens the prison and all the prisoners get out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And take over Gotham City.
And anyway, I do think that what we're seeing right now is just an old playbook kind of turned up, but then we also have like the fact that people are paying a lot of attention to the left right now, not only because we're so popular, but also because we are posing a real alternative. We're winning things. We're not just winning elections. We're contributing to winning strikes. We're contributing to, kind of an upsurgence of people's consciousness that cannot be kind of like just shrugged away as like, oh, it's just this fringe group, right? It's like, no, we're actually changing things. And so then you see the federal government, you see people like Marco Rubio and Stephen Miller orating like lunatics about all of the things, the horrible things we're going to do, and the fact that we're only doing it because we're jealous of them, which is just, I mean, we could probably talk for a long time about how ridiculous that is, but it is creating a lot of hostility. But it's also creating, I think, when they're hostile to us, then people are going to be like, why are those lunatics? why are those awful people so mad at them? I'm going to find out what they're about.
And just back to the super last thing on the police too, like policing, yes, it also it does ensconce and protect the society. I mean, the property in the society, and not necessarily the people in a capitalist society, because that's what, I mean, literally the system is called capitalism. Capitalism is not about people, right? Like, that's in the name, it's on the tin. But like, even in that situation, like if you cared about people, which I would suggest that a lot of the people who advocate for a capitalist society do not, your knowledge may vary, obviously, but like the function of what police do in this society is not prevent anything. They don't prevent any kind of crime. That goes to social conditions, that goes to economic conditions, that goes to whether or not people have to do crimes of necessity to survive. The old stealing the loaf of bread to feed your family, Jean Valjean stuff, right? But like in reality, like all that policing does is respond to crimes. They essentially are a indication of what the socioeconomic situation is in a given area, in a given society. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just laying it out for our audience. Like police respond to these things. They don't necessarily even solve these things, and they certainly don't prevent them. They're literally only a response, documentation, and also they get beefed up and inflict violence on these communities that don't have capital, be they, of any identity.
Yeah, and also,
though they do focus more on some identities than others.
I don't know if people know, but courts have decided, have recently made decisions that essentially say that police have no obligation to protect people. There's no obligation for police to actually protect human life. And that is something that I think a lot of people might not realize. Like whenever the sort of, outrage machine starts ginning up and they're just like, they're going to like let dangerous people out and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, the thing is that the thing that we think the police, or we think that a state that does care about people or has any responsibility to people would do at a very minimum is protect human life. But you occasionally have the cop who's got a heart of gold, right? Those are just people. We're talking about systems here.
Yes.
We're not talking about individuals. We're talking about systems. And here we're talking about a standing patrol of 750,000 people nationwide that almost are able to act autonomously to surveil and control populations with violence. And I think that if kind of going back to the whole, I don't know, there's the idea of the veil of ignorance by John Rawls, is a philosopher, where it's like, if people got to start from first principles, what would they decide? I really don't think that if people got together to democratically decide how do we keep ourselves safe, they would invent the police that were invented in the 19th century.
It definitely wouldn't exist like it does now.
Yeah.
Totally.
You are listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. This is your weekly Good Morning Comrade. Francis Gill and Michaela B are joining us on the show. You mentioned also earlier a little bit about healthcare for all, Medicare for all, that kind of thing. I know you've been working on that for a really long time. It's not the only thing that is like wildly popular in the United States, and it's also become something of like part of. It's been a lot more of. I want to focus on the working class foreign policy piece because, like, I think people misunderstand the 2028 election from the certain perspective of, like, part of the reason Kamala Harris lost was, yes, because she didn't put forward any policies, and yes, because she put forward a situation where she would be a continuation of the Biden administration, but also, like, the fact that people actually understand a little bit about Palestine now. They actually understand that the United States is sending billions of dollars to what is an apartheid state, and essentially maintaining a concentration camp that is endlessly under assault by, you know, and not, it's not just the morality of it, but it's also the immorality, I should say, but it's also the fact that our society is crumbling in right before our very eyes. We don't have a healthcare system. It's almost like a joke that right wingers say is like, we're going to, you know, show Iran why we don't have healthcare in this country, like that kind of thing. We these things are connected, but like talk a little bit about the working class foreign policy piece, because it is something that I think is a lot more important than people sort of think about or kind of give credence to. Go ahead, Francis, if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I can start. I one thing I will say that I think is kind of interesting is I was surprised that we didn't get more like controversy or blowback on many aspects of the working class foreign policy section. Obviously they do talk a little bit about the defund the Department of War. Like that one gets some airtime. But there,
which we absolutely should do, by the way. Like, come on. It's like even like if you believed in like a strong military, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like even if you believed in a strong military, if you looked at the way that the Department of War and how our like the amount of bloat when it comes to military contracts and what the United States gets in return, like you would pull your hair out of your head because it's so ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
falling out right now, Jeff.
On its own terms. Yeah. The United States don't have no missiles. We ain't got no missiles. Go ahead, Francis. I'm sorry.
No, it's so crazy, and there's also just like such a powerful opportunity there to connect like the climate crisis and the military budget, because you know obviously the U.S. military is like one of the top carbon emitters on the globe, and so there's this very powerful opportunity to connect not only, like you said, the domestic social services, Medicare for all, etc., with how much we spend on the military budget, but also just what are we spending that money on, and people are seeing. I mean, I just was on a road trip across some of the Pacific Northwest, and the wildfire smoke was so bad. It was horrible. So bad, and I grew up in Seattle, like. It didn't used to be like that.
It used to be like that, yeah.
Yeah. When I went to Wisconsin to canvass for Francesca Hong, wildfire smoke we were all wearing N95 masks because the wildfire smoke was so bad. And I mean, anyway, I mean, long story short, I'm just trying to communicate that like people see it every single day that we're living through this climate crisis. It's no longer as easy for the Republicans to be like, oh, it's not real. They are having a harder time making that argument when people are living it and breathing it every single day. And so there's a very powerful opportunity for us to connect this like working class foreign policy and what we want to see in our day-to-day lives. And I think, I don't know, that's one of the other things that's just great about the program is it does offer the opportunity to connect all these things. It's not we're not running like 6 different campaigns on 6 different issues. We are a socialist organization. We have a vision of a different world. And the more we can clarify and articulate and popularize that vision, the more powerful we'll be. And there will be bumps along the way because it's a challenging thing that we're trying to do, but that's okay. And like, we're figuring it out. So yeah.
I just also wanted to remark too, like we have 4 planks in the working class foreign policy section. One is, you know, ending war. One is liberating Palestine. One is ending blockades, embargoes, and sanctions. And one's abolish ICE. And not a lot of people might think like, why is abolish ICE in there? That's such like a domestic thing or whatever.
It's very natural.
Yeah, but the thing is that like this also connects like our own activity outside of the United States, fomenting war, fomenting destruction outside and causing refugee crises everywhere, you know, and causing, you know, a lot of sort of mass immigration of people who would rather stay where they are. But the thing is that this is about freedom. And I think that a lot of people are not, you know, maybe connecting this whenever you hear the right always say they want to take away your freedom. What we want is real freedom. And what this does is it connects the rights of self-determination, the rights of people to live their lives without, you know, undue pressure from outside, the rights of our own tax dollars going to the things that we want instead of going to this massively bloated budget, which, by the way, also goes to other countries to fight their wars and privileges other countries in order to essentially build up weapons manufacturers here. And then also for people to be free to relocate in order to live their lives. The thing is that a lot of people really want to make it sound like what socialists want to do is bureaucratize or to, kind of make people's lives like more full of red tape or like there's only one way to do things. We want people to be able to live their lives and really live their lives, right? Like I want to live my life and I want other people to be able to do that, because if we do that, we will be able to unleash the creative and intellectual and like sort of beautiful power of humanity if people were actually able to really live their lives how they're meant to be lived. And that's why I think the program also works so well, is because we're really we're not like, these aren't super drawn out, like, long. If you look at something like Project 2025, it's basically like a book of like, here's all the horrible things we're going to do. What we have are like, here's straightforwardly what we're fighting for. It's a minimal program, and it also kind of like, okay, so like, how are we going to get there? And I really like what you said, Francis, about we can connect these things because they are connected, because capital is everywhere. Capital is global, and capital is causing the destruction of human beings and the planet. And what we can do is say, hey, there actually is another way to live our lives and to be able to live it better. Let's talk about how we're going to make some of these things happen now. Not all of them are going to happen right away, but we can do some of these things, and we have been successfully doing some of these things.
A better world is possible. It's
no way. I didn't say that. Don't you ever put words in my mouth.
Why would you think this? Yeah. Francis, I don't know if you wanted to piggyback on that.
Yeah. I guess like shifting gears a little bit, but I think something that has also been interesting to me in kind of sifting through the like response and controversy around the program is just how like these media pundits, political pundits, how kind of shallow their understanding of politics is. Because the way I see it is like we're charting out a very clear political pole. And that is a hugely important part of shifting the whole conversation in a different direction and farther to the left. But the pundits are like, oh, this is like too crazy, and you're gonna be responsible for like Trump getting elected a third term. And it's just like, that's not how politics works. That's like not what we're doing.
I'm sorry, but also like the people that lost to Donald Trump twice are going to tell us that we're going to lose to Donald Trump. Okay, bro. Like, cool.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you for your advice.
Exactly.
You, an enlightened political genius who can't ever win.
Yeah, enlightened political genius. The guy
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, the NBC guy, he was like, we have we had open borders under Joe Biden, and that's why Trump got elected a second time.
What?
No, we so did not. Reagan opened the borders.
We don't have an immigration system in this country. Like, you know what would be good? If we replaced ICE with an immigration system that actually made it so that people could legally become a citizen in this country. Because right now, that doesn't exist. Straight up. Like, come on, man. Like, it's not that complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to also mention that, like, the shallowness of their politics, and also their sort of dehistoricized, like, this is so crazy. It's like, these are actually demands that not only socialists have made, but also Democrats and sometimes Republicans have made, right? So like, but the thing is that a unifying force in the socialist movement right now is also that we actually want to transform society, right? And we have the patience and the organizing to do it. We're growing, right? And yes, like, compared to how many registered Democrats there are, 120,000, 130,000 people. But those are people who are willing to actually pay dues to an organization and get rights as members of a proto party, right? We're not officially a party, but we are acting like a party. That's so exciting, because otherwise, like, what do you have? You have two corporations that have monopolized the election system and essentially run off of, big money fat cat donors. We don't. We're dues run with the occasional windfall. We just got like an occasional windfall, like of somebody's like retirement fund. But the thing is that we're people powered, and that freaks them out. It freaks them out that there are actually this many people who'd be willing to not just like, get onto an email list, but actually have the opportunity to practice political agency and be involved in the conversations that are happening in chapters all over the country about how are we going to make this stuff happen? And then we do. And it's so cool. So like the program is actually something we should be, and we are celebrating and centering and figuring out ways, like what are the best ways for our electeds to be able to like, not just like get onto a TV show and talk about it, which we want them to do. We want people to be able to do that, but also to be able to sort of like make it central in a lot of like what they're doing. And even though it might be a little bit bumpy now because people are just like, oh no, there's a new thing out there that now I have to talk about, or people are making me talk about. I really do, not just because I'm full of hopium or something, but like, I really do think that like people sitting down and reading this program, when they read it, they'll see, oh, not only are people trying to put words in our mouth and say that things are in it that aren't there, but this is actually what I really believe in, 90, 95, maybe even 100% of it. And it helps us as DSA to be able to have this as like, the touchstone, like the thing that we go back to in order to be like, how are we doing, kind of bringing this into being.
Well, I can't think of a better place to leave it than there. We are coming up on our time, but before we go, let's give both of you an opportunity to say where we can find you and where we can find more information about DSA. So first off, Francis, where can we find you? What you going on?
I'm around. I would say the things I'd want to leave people with are check out the program if you haven't already. Program.dsausa.org. And then also, if you're not already a DSA member, join DSA, dsausa.org/join, so that we can be the most powerful organization that we are capable of being. We need everybody in. And also, we do have a call coming up for DSA leaders. So if you're a DSA leader listening to this call, but maybe I'll leave it there and pass it to Michaela.
Yeah, we can put all that in the show notes as well.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Go ahead, Michaela.
Obviously join, check out our program, our beautiful, beautiful program. But also, if you are interested in kind of deepening your political development, your knowledge, check out the National Political Education Committee, which is becoming a commission. So if you know what that is, if you're a DSA member, it basically is if you have any experience doing political education, if you're an educator, if you're public intellectual, if you're a researcher, if you're a writer, you should join our commission. Basically, if you meet a certain criteria, you're welcome to join it. And then also, I currently host, as you mentioned, Jeff, our podcast. DSA does have an official podcast. It's our political education podcast, and it's called Class. So if you look up Class DSA podcast on Google, it'll send you somewhere that you can listen to it. And it's fun. We interview people from all over the country about all kinds of stuff. We just had one on sports and socialism. We had one on the program, of course. I'm about to interview a comrade who's running for city council in Portland, Maine, who is also a farmer. So to talk about like socialism and farming, socialism and food. So yeah, kind of like a broad spectrum, and it's fun, and you should listen to it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. You are listening to WHIV LP New Orleans 102.3. This is Good Morning Comrade. We love you. Bye-bye.